You're pulling more G's in a funny car than the Blue Angels are going in a reverse barrel roll.
It feels like a mule kicked you in your chest the whole time. And everybody gets out and they're going like, why are you huffing and puffing at the top end? I was like, because I'm 250 pounds and it's, that times 6 on my chest, on that run.
Because it's a 12G. It's a 12G swing.
I told you, dude. I want to talk about steaks. I want to talk about the steaks you're raising at True Harvest that you sent me in the mail.
How about that? That was
which
smooth.
are amazing.
He was smooth right there. How about that?
Folks, that's the kind of transition you're just not going to hear on other podcasts. I don't think we need Chloe for this now that I think about it.
Okay, it's fair, honestly.
You kidding? There's no way you can't not be in this. Chloe Hudson is with us. Matt Hagan is with us because they're traveling together, and it's been a weekend of what? Funny cars and food and hailstorms.
Yeah.
Chuck, you were there?
I experienced that hailstorm. It was something. Yeah.
So this was what was the official name of the race, Matt?
So it's Winter Nationals out there in Pomona, California. We raced there at Fairplex. So it's just kind of one of those things where we roll into town usually in Pomona twice a year. We used to start there and finish there. A lot of history there, man. So many champions crowned there. So I kind of get goosebumps.
And he was a champion crowned there last season.
Yeah, we won it all last season. But
you won it all.
She's a great cheerleader. She's a good hype man. It's good to have her around.
But she just buried it in parentheses here. Let's just go back for a minute. So are you the national champion, world champion?
Reigning champion.
The
for
reigning
funny
world
car.
champion.
Why stop? I mean, why world? How about
galactic?
I mean, because
I'm into it.
Like, bring the aliens in, man.
I guess technically they are, right?
Put our full 10 hats on, But
so, you guys have both been on this podcast before, and because you were in town, and because you were at a race, and because Chuck is now like a big funny car guy, he had to go. And I'm like, well,
all it takes is one race, and you're a fan. Honestly.
That's a fact.
We got to get you out there, man.
Yeah.
Well, look, I've seen it, man. There was. Well, John Force, right? So years ago, when I was impersonating a host over at Evening Magazine, we went up to what used to be called Sears Point, right? Which is now, I guess, Infineon, that raceway. And, yeah, that's in Northern California, Chloe, so you wouldn't know anything about the Republic of Northern California.
No.
What would you do up there?
Nothing.
But, man, yeah, that was the first time I saw cars go from 0 to, like, what is it, light speed now, basically?
Right, yeah, pretty much. I mean, 330 miles an hour. We're still we're running now to 1,000 feet versus a quarter mile, but that's really just more for stopping distance on the cars because, these tracks back in the day, man, everybody was still running 200 miles an hour trying to get there, and now we're over 330 and still same stopping distance. So I've actually re-engineered our parachutes to where we're running a smaller chute because all last year, every time I throw the parachutes, see stars, it's like when you pick up, like doing a deadlift and you pick up a heavy weight, that feeling of like, oh man. So I'm like, this can't be great for my eyeballs, and actually we've had a lot of drivers lose their career or stop their career because their retina's detached. And so it's important to really have, some input and feedback on like, hey, we can't do this anymore. We have these massive parachutes that help stop us, but sometimes they're too much, and so we finally kind of found a medium, working with Simpson, kind of like an in-between of, hey, this is big enough, but this is, not too big to where I'm not seeing stars when I pull the parachute,
And even the hole in the center of the
in the microphone.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, if you're going to be interesting,
sorry.
on that mic.
Sorry, I'm trying to include everyone in the conversation, okay?
What's more, we're talking about driving, actually, although I don't think people who have driven a car really have much of a basis to compare that experience to what you're doing. The difference between 60 miles an hour and 300 miles an hour isn't just the mathematical difference, right? Things get exponentially weird as you speed up and stop.
You're doing it in that short amount of time, right? Like, so you can go out to Salt Flats and run 300-400 miles an hour, 500 miles an hour, but you have a couple miles to do that in. And don't get me wrong, I'm sure that's extremely fast and it feels extremely fast. But when you do it in 1,000 feet at 330 miles an hour, it feels like a mule kicked you in your chest the whole time. And everybody gets out and they're going like, why are you huffing and puffing at the top end? I was like, because I'm 250 pounds and it's, that times 6 on my chest, on that run.
Because it's a 12G. It's a 12G swing. So,
I told you, dude.
Yeah.
It's you're pulling more G's in a funny car than the Blue Angels are going in a reverse barrel roll.
Right. And they do it almost 20 times a weekend.
But it's not for that, but just
it's quick.
Small, yes, fraction of a little bit of time.
Well, and to brag on him too, something that makes him an exceptional driver above others is he's got a 75% reaction time leaving. So 75% of the time he leaves before the driver in the lane next to him. So that's including when they dump it in and they have their nose of their car in further than his. It doesn't matter. 75% of the time.
It can
If that's
help
a
you win
batting
race,
average,
you
right?
know?
Well, that's easy. When they
Yeah.
go 3, 2, 1, all you have to do is take off on 2.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No,
always
right.
beat them.
I always
Right.
say leave on time, keep it in the groove, and turn the wind light on.
Right,
you know?
but just even further than that, he can tell you what happens to the car at 150 feet. He can tell you when they dropped a cylinder at 300 feet.
But that's
Mind
seat
you,
time, right?
But that doesn't matter. But it's astonishing when he can listen to it, not even sitting in the driver's seat, and tell you almost exactly what's happened to a car to make it and not go left, right. It doesn't matter. I mean, there's times where I hear him relay what happened during a run, and they go up to the crew chief lounge, and it overlays exactly, I mean, to the foot of what has happened with him as a driver in that car. So, I mean, that's something that you don't really see with all drivers out there, but it's exceptional, and it's really impressive.
But that's
to
just
me.
honing your craft, right,
Right.
Mike? I mean, you know that. Like everything you do, you have to hone your craft, and it's just
10,000
seat time.
hours.
All right,
I mean,
yeah.
Gladwell's not right about everything, but he was
15
right
years.
about that, right? Yeah, I mean, it's like pick a thing and obsess over it, right? And then obsess some more, and then hopefully somebody pays you to obsess, right? Because that show I did, Somebody's Got to Do It. That really wasn't about work or vocations. That was about people whose hobbies got a little out of control and who just went to the next level, whether it's like barbershop harmony or square dancing or anything. Like people can lose their minds really on anything in terms of, and I mean that as a compliment. You
Disc
can-
golf.
Disc golf.
Yeah.
Freak,
There you go.
right? You pick your thing. But
Poison.
your world is so interesting because the poison is money. It's very transactional, and just talk real
with
quick.
dire consequences too.
Well, that's the second thing, right?
Right.
Stakes. So I want to talk about stakes. I want to talk about the stakes you're raising at True Harvest
there we
that
go.
you sent me in the mail,
How about that? That was
which
smooth.
are amazing.
He was smooth right
Yeah,
there.
that's
How
the
about that?
folks. That's the kind of transition you're just not going to
Wow.
hear on other podcasts.
We've done
You're
this
just
a
not
little
gonna
while.
hear.
And we're done.
but not until we're done with the stakes.
Yes.
Because where how's the poem go? Where work is play, where love and need are one, and work is play for mortal stakes. There got to be stakes. So, I mean, I hate to make it dark, but how often are you reminded?
Yeah, obviously we drive a bomb, I guess, basically.
Exactly.
Look, and you hope the wick is long enough to where it doesn't go off before you get to the finish line. But that's pushing it to the limit every time. You're asking parts and pieces to do things that they're not quite originally engineered for, and you're modifying them as you go. Different things like that. And we have a set of rules that we have to stay in. But as a crew chief and watching those guys work and stuff, they obviously push it to the limit. And it's kind of like
30-minute turnaround time.
yeah,
on
you
top
find
of that.
a new part or piece that works better, and you back it up and to try it, and then you go, oh, we can push it even harder and push it even harder until that part fails,
Until
and
it
then-
breaks.
and then it blows up, and and you're the guy behind the wheel that it blows up on. And
Are you using it like a trans brake?
no, there's just no shifting. It's just you're grabbing a brake pedal and there's a fuel pedal in there, and stab the fuel, let go of the brake, and you're steering. And basically, it'd be so hard for your mind to see a shift light and to comprehend that you're trying to just keep this nose in they call it the groove. And so basically you have this lane that you're in, but there's rubber that everybody kind of tries to run down the middle of the track, and that's what we call the groove, the dark part of the racetrack, and that's where the best rubber's at. And you're just trying to keep the nose of that car in that groove as you're going down through there. And then you have clutch wear, which looks like a sandstorm coming up in front of you while you're driving this car, because applying power to the racetrack, 12,000 horsepower, 80,000 foot-pounds of torque, you can't apply it directly to the track, right? So you have to have this clutch, which we run a 6-disc clutch, that basically is eating all this clutch disc up to allow the tire to slip enough to where we can apply some of that power to the track. So never running out of power. Everybody goes like, oh my gosh, you're so big. Like, how do they get you down through there? We don't utilize all the power we have.
11,000 horsepower.
So it's like
That's Jesus.
it's a controlled spin through there. So applying power is really where it's at. It's not a matter how big you are or what you got. It's just getting that clutch application right to the power that you have to the track and
like kind of a visual
you.
representation too. So 4 of his cars on a line. They do 4 wides in Vegas and Charlotte. And so 4 of a funny car 4 funny cars on a line is more horsepower than the entire field of NASCAR. So every vehicle included in a
Say that
NASCAR
again.
field. So when 4 funny cars line up on a starting line,
Mm-hmm.
there's more horsepower on that starting line than an entire field in NASCAR.
But that's not funny. Why do they call them funny cars?
Well, back in the day,
Yeah.
they tucked the wheels up underneath of them, and got that looks funny, and then the name stuck, and one thing led to another, and then you have these cars where the body lifts up, and then the roof hatch you come out of the top of it, and guys used to bail out the side of the windows, and
you
know,
got to be
just,
a real man to be in a funny
Well, back in
car.
the day, back not now. Now, back in
Yeah.
the day, these boys, like, because the fire containment was so bad, when you drove a funny car, I have so much respect for Force and those guys and Snake and, Mongoose and guys back then, man. I mean, they weren't running the mile an hour we were running, but every time you crawled in one of those things, you had an opportunity.
Because
to
didn't
live
you
your
see the
life. 'Cause,
shaft? It used to be open. You could
yeah,
see
well,
it
even
spinning.
well,
So like you look
unfortunately,
down between your legs.
Yes.
yeah,
And,
well,
and you see the drive shaft.
Yes.
well,
moving at the speed
they
of
finally
sound.
gave me a
Yes.
carbon cover to, it makes
Make
me
me
feel
feel
better
better.
about it because I can't see it. It's a piece of carbon over top of it. But the back then the stakes were higher, I think, because fire containment wasn't as good, and you didn't have as great of fire bottles and suppression and different things. And when those things were on fire, they were on fire, and so you knew that going in, getting in that car, it's like those guys and the protection that
The
they had
engine's in front of
wasn't
him.
as good, So
So
Oh,
with the-
right.
With the
Right.
top fuel dragsters, the engine's behind. So
Yeah.
like he's just a totally different set of
So
circumstances when fire does
unfortunately,
happen.
there's been a lot of guys come up through that's had some really hard knocks along the way, and we've innovated and brought up the safety standards to where I feel like they're very safe, now to drive, So it's,
that's it.
there's a fine line
Relative.
between bravery and
Relative.
stupidity, right? Like you don't know some
Relative.
days what side of bravery or stupidity you're on, but you hope you're on the bravery side a lot of times. But it's just, and there's some things that I don't agree with our rules and different things like that. That as a driver, I feel like like they tie our bodies down to make sure that they don't blow up and go in the grandstand. But when you tie that much energy down, take a firecracker and put it in your hands. Open your hand up, it burn you pretty good. You close your hand and
You
knock
lose
your
your finger.
fingers off, right?
Yeah.
Same principle with us. We're now, because in the years past we've had these bodies go 50 feet in the air, and one or two of them in the past have fallen over in
I
the
think
stands.
one, honestly.
When you say body, are we talking human bodies?
No.
No.
The
Oh,
body
okay.
of the vehicle.
The body of the vehicle,
Right,
Yeah,
okay,
the,
just-
the funny car body.
No, there are a lot of people listening.
Yeah.
Yes, right.
No,
right.
seriously. Let's just back up a minute, because I watched, NASCAR on TV for years and thought I basically understood. There's a bunch of left turns and some guys, and somebody's going to win, and everybody's got an advertisement wrapped around them. I get it. And then I went to one.
No. Totally
Okay,
different. Yeah.
it was like the first hockey game I ever went to.
Right.
Like that, some sports like football. Like football, you can watch it. Like football was made for TV.
Yeah.
Right? Like you watch it, you get. In fact, it's better.
On TV.
Football's better on TV than it is even if you got a skybox at the 50-yard line, right? But you can't understand a funny car situation unless you really go. And so I guess I'm asking you to talk a little bit, to go back about that reaction time being 75% on the right side of good, right? Like what's going on in your brainstem when you're watching that Christmas tree tick down that's not going on to the same degree to the guy to your left or right? And to what degree, like how can you articulate the focus that's necessary to do that? And does it have anything to do with the fact that, for a long time, Tiger was making putts that people just couldn't
Believe, right?
they just couldn't
Yeah.
believe?
Well, so I think it comes down to just turning a lot of that stuff off, right? Like, so you have to be in this zone when you take that adrenaline and you channel it into something that's a positive. I mean, I think I've been racing against guys that they're puking in a trash can because they're got the world championship on the line and they can't hack it, and you're going like, hey, buddy, it's going to be all right, let's pick you up here and wipe you off and put you back
Probably
in the car.
going to be all right. It might be all
Might
right.
be.
Yeah,
And again,
right.
that
Matt's
might
like,
be
"Give
the
me the
most
ball,
justified
put me
puke you ever did. Yeah.
But I think it's just channeling. Every athlete has that zone that they all talk about. That they want to get in and try to live in when they're playing the sport. And it really is a true thing. I really do believe that. You take me. When I'm at the race, you can come up and we can sign autographs, we can chat. And you can sit in my lap if you needed to. And it doesn't matter to me. But once I get in that car and I pull down tight, it's kind of like I turn everything else off and I start focusing about what I have in front of me and what I have in hand.
Have you
playing
left
that
your
back in
body
mind.
before?
I don't know about leaving my body, but I've definitely, got it to be where it's so slow mo that you're hearing each cylinder fire and you're hearing the clutch come to it. And you know where you're at on the track, and it's just like it's become so slow that you're processing information that it seems like it would take, minutes, and it's taking seconds, you know what I mean? And it's just kind of, it all comes together, and it's just like it's meant to be. It's supposed to happen this way. And I've already kind of in my mind already seen it, and I talk to myself a lot before I make the run. I tell myself what I want to happen. I'm going to leave on time. I'm going to be the best leaver. I'm, a lot of positive reinforcement and stuff like that. And you just close your eyes and you play it back in your head before it even happens. And, you go up there and do the things you need to. And I've been able to win 4 championships, so it's like I guess, let me brag a little bit, I guess, but it puts me in an elite group with only 3 other drivers in the history of the sport, So Force, Kenny Bernstein, and Don the Snake Perdome and me. So there's...
Wait a minute. You got Don the Snake. You got John Force. Yeah. And who's the middle guy?
Kenny Bernstein.
That's just funny,
Yeah.
How'd Kenny Bernstein get there with the snake and the force?
Right. Yeah, he turned into a good driver.
Hagan,
and the bulk.
Yeah. But, it's definitely whatever you're doing, keep doing it kind of thing, right? If it ain't broke, don't fix it. But it's just...
a note to add to that, Force is the only other driver in that group that's still driving. So the other 2 aren't. So he has an opportunity to even edge out some of those guys.
Yeah, if we win one more championship, we could edge 2 of them out.
Can I just say something about Force too? When I was there on Sunday, as we were walking in, Force was on like a little moped, just driving through the whole thing. Just
fire suit on the whole time,
If he took that fire suit off, it'd stand up on his own.
How fast was that moped going?
I've seen him wipe out on that thing before, man. Yeah, he's all on it all the time. But no, there is a zone. I feel like, and you have to find that as an athlete and figure that out. No different than singing or her welding. I'm sure when she's welding, you get in this zone of what you're doing, and it becomes like it's a natural thing, but you're reacting. And I'll definitely think about leaving the start line, but I never think about driving the car because it becomes natural to me, driving the car, because you're in that zone and things are happening and you're just making these decisions. And then, it's $7,000 every time we make a run if we don't hurt anything. That's just
thank you, Dodge Motorsports.
Right? Yeah. So
thank you.
So it's important to learn from that, to grow as a driver, to grow as an individual. I've had races I've lost, and I've back my first championship that I lost, was to Force, and a second year trying to learn to drive a race car, still learning to drive the car, and all I had to do was show up and go 2 rounds, and Force had to win the race, and I lost first round, and he won the race, and they wanted to stick a camera in my face, and I just kind of was like, get out of my face with a camera, let me have my own time, and learn not to do that. That's not a good look, you know what I mean? And so I grew as a man, I grew as a driver, I grew as an individual to stand up there, you think of people that you need to think, and then you go back and find a place you can cry in the shower where nobody sees you, what I mean? So it's just, that kind of thing. But you have to go through those things to grow,
Well, I think too, what's interesting about all of this is you're in a world that's intensely familiar to the people who are interested in it and intensely baffling to people who aren't. Now, you, Chloe, you're a welder by trade, but I've come to know you, and I think you're a bit more than that. Not that being a welder isn't enough in and of itself, but part of your job is to articulate the weirdness of his passion, both in social media, right? So you're basically his communications department.
Thank God, because he can't spell worth of nothing.
Can't read it. It's bad. Yeah.
Don't give him a script.
We were trying to do trivia this weekend with one of our sponsors, and I couldn't read half this. I was like, I should have pre-read this.
That's
you know
right.
what I mean? Like,
Right,
it was bad before we were on camera.
On the end.
Yeah.
And so the challenge it's like I see it everywhere I look now, because you're only really as effective as your communication. Doesn't matter what you're doing. I don't care if you're golfing or playing chess or just writing books or driving fast. You have to make a persuasive case for why anybody should give a damn.
Right.
So that's your job.
They make it tremendously easy for me. I mean, not only is he good looking, best looking driver out there, him and his group that he surrounds himself with, it's family. I mean, very seldom do you see a group of guys, because there's such a demand for mechanics and people who specialize out there that it is such a competitive market. These guys are taking more money over here, more perks over here, and him as a driver and Tony Stewart Racing as an entity have created an environment where these guys have stayed with him. He's had guys with him for 10 years, which is kind of unheard of. Not just one, he's had a few. So it really speaks to the environment, the work environment, and the trust that they have in creating a car for a driver that's going to win, because they have a lot more at stake as far as, they get a bonus. So they want to be with a driver that they feel like they can trust 100%. And, I've heard the conversations where they didn't know I was sitting in the car, and they trust him implicitly. They never question the job that he does on the starting line and the ability for him to get down it.
Well, and the stuff that she's doing on the social media side of things and
It's
Instagram.
fun. It's just I get to have the funsies part. So.
Tony was like, I want my page to look like that. So Tony hired her this year to do his page as well, So
yeah, his personal page.
I mean, this is
he's already gotten a little sour. He's like, oh man, why's mine look like that?
He definitely is like, man, I got to get my page looking like that too. So you're right. I mean, people do pay attention. They do that's the outreach to everyone that's not at a racetrack that weekend.
Yeah, because the TV is not going to do it. It's not enough.
Yeah.
It's not enough to just watch it through that screen.
Well, and I started as a consumer of motorsports and not as someone who is passionate about motorsports. Okay, like I come from a welding background, so I was much more, ask me about nuclear power plants, ask me about hydroelectric energy, ask me about what the industrial sector looks like right now, and I could talk your ear off about it because it was something I was very passionate about. But motorsports was kind of an offshoot of aerospace, and it was something that I got to really take in as a consumer. So whenever I was given the responsibility of social media, I look at it as, how can I entertain the person who's not going to buy a ticket? How can I make that person buy a ticket? How can I make the guy's girlfriend be like, hey, this is neat. Let's go. Like, it's not just, rubber and nitro burning your eyelashes off, which have been there, done that. But it's
if your eyelashes catch on fire, kiddo,
that's a 5 alarm.
It's fully involved.
Forest fire,
Run for your lives.
I know, it's bad. It's bad news. Funny. But it's the luxury of his sport is every ticket is a pit pass. So, you get to shake his hand. You get to see his guys get in there and do a 34-minute turnaround between rounds. Yeah. You can see, you can feel the clutch. If you were standing in the wrong spot, you were getting covered in clutch dust after a round. And, and when we have people who are sponsors to come on and they get to be on that starting line, you are the closest part's going to fall out of your butt of anything else that you can experience. And they do it 20 times a weekend. So it's something that is very easy to become passionate about. Of course, Chuck, you get it now.
I totally get it, man.
There's just something about it. It makes you want to rearrange your schedule so you can go hang out for a day.
You can see the sound. Yeah. That's the weirdest thing is that you can see the sound.
The shock waves in the air.
It's so loud and it hits you in the chest.
That's visceral. I know.
My buddy Hector was there and he could not believe it. He was like, did you feel that? I'm like, yeah, man, that's why we're here.
That's why we have a hard time competing with football and NFL and TV because, we can't make our TV shake and fall on the floor. It's just sensory overload when you're there at a racetrack, but you have to go, right?
Yeah.
So you have to take that Saturday that you would be doing something else with your family or friends or something and bring them to the racetrack with you,
It's so transferable. So like Constance Nunez, she's a really good friend of mine, teeny tiny, beautiful girl. She's obsessed with it. She loves it. And then you have, guys like the WWE Adam Braun Strowman guy who came out to the race and now he's obsessed with it. Yeah, huge. Viking Nordic feller. Like, you don't want to ask about his history because he probably took
I was like, take a cow. Take a cow here.
Sacrifice to the guy. But it's like you the two total opposite ends of the spectrum, and they both love it. Like, they're both obsessed. When can we get another ticket? Like, every single time we're in town, they're there. And so it just really speaks volumes to, nothing makes me happier than when you go out there and you see, somebody's granddad and they've got, a 2-year-old with earphones on the fence. Because you're like, that's the next generation. Like, that's the generation of somebody who's going to be so wildly impressed that they have junior dragsters. Like, not only do you have the celebrity of what Tony is and what Matt is, they have junior dragsters at some of these races. So you get to see the really scaled down version. And it's a kid driving. It's an 8-year-old.
Speaking of kids, Mike, we have this CAP program where we work with Mopar and we work with
What's
Dodge.
it stand for? CAP?
CAP, it's, you would ask me.
Automotive programs.
I love this, by the way.
Yes.
So basically, we take these kids that are in a CAP program, which is a college that Dodge and Mopar offers, and then we bring them out to the racetrack and we place them with dealers, with trying to figure out how to make these kids into master techs where they make $150,000, $200,000 a year.
I know Coletta is currently, I mean, they have a now hiring sticker on their car.
Come to work kind of stuff.
No
you know?
kidding.
Yeah, like they're Coletta Air. I mean, they need people.
We're gonna do 8 races this year, starting in Phoenix. This next race coming up with the CAP program with Mopar, and we're getting there early in the morning and talking to these kids, and then placing them with dealers and franchises and dealerships and service directors that they walk from one stage to the next. You know what I mean? It's just it's an awesome thing. I have three guys on my car that have come out of the Western Tech program, and we've also had kids come from the Wyo Tech program and different things like that. And it's unbelievable how they just walk up and hand us a resume, and my crew chief's like,
they want 2 championships.
Come wash parts for a minute, and then once you figure out the routine, we'll place you. You know what I mean?
So how acute is the shortage right now for mechanics in your world?
It's hard to find. I mean, we can't find guys. We've been trying to hire a couple guys already, and you can't find them. I've done 3 or 4 interviews and different things like that, and just in the last couple week time span, and can't get people to show up, can't get nobody on the scene. Guys that say that they're going to be there for an interview, they flake out. I mean, it's impossible. And so sometimes you're dealing with some of these guys that you probably don't want to, but you have to because they're showing up and working, and so the need is massive. And so no different than in my dad's dealerships, right? Like, so we have 11 new franchises. He's the biggest privately owned used car dealer in the state of Virginia.
Your dad is?
Sheeler Motor Mile, yes, sir. And we cannot find master techs. I mean, like, we're giving them tools. I mean, we're doing whatever it takes, like come to work, so the opportunity is
$240,000 a year.
These master techs can pick up the phone and go anywhere in the country they want to go.
Snap on toolbox.
If they don't show up one day, it's not like we can get the guy that's changing oil to come over here and do his job for him. They make their own schedule. They pretty much demand their own pay, and it's just you're going to school for 2 years to do that. You know what I mean?
Is it a skill gap? Is it a will gap? Is it?
I think
I mean, okay. In the industry that I'm in, I've seen it across the board. A huge thing is manufacturing. We need to stop treating people as expendable. When you have somebody who is working for you, who does a great job, if it's somebody who's been with you for 25 years and they ask for a pay bump, well, I mean, I got news for you. This guy knows where every fire hose spigot and turn off valve and he knows your building because he was there when it was built. And to let some of these guys retire with that wealth of knowledge that they are harboring is insane. And just because you don't think that, well, this guy doesn't have a college degree and he isn't in sales and he isn't, just because it doesn't work within the confines of what you think deserves X amount, well, his experience demands X amount. Because now he can go and have a privately owned company doing electrician work on the side and make more. And here he was giving you an opportunity to hold on to him. And this is the person that you need training your next generation of electricians. And so I think that's a massive thing too that nobody ever talks about. There's a massive skills gap because we're losing the foundation of the people who are going to pass on that knowledge. Look, I went to school for 2 years. I learned so much, but there is nothing I learned more than being hands-on and finding the grumpy old curmudgeon man who has been doing it for 40 years. And it's like, that's the kind of person you want to work with. Because you know what? Ted, who was a millwright at Bear Swamp hydroelectric unit plant, taught me so much about honing stones and how to figure out which gaskets to use whenever you're.
Let me ask you something. Did he come to you and say, "Hey, Chloe, I've got some knowledge and I'd like to go ahead and share it with you,"
No.
or were you a jagged little pill who was up in his grill every day?
The thing is like people forget, like, you have to be all in. You have to prove your worth. Look, this shit's hard for everybody. Okay, there are jobs that are, when you're a bottom end guy on his car, that's hard.
That's what you should come try.
I
feel bad for the maids that clean the room at night. You know what I mean? Between the clutch
he had goggles on this weekend with tear-offs just to try and see it.
Yeah, it's tough.
But that's the kind of stuff that the thing that I've noticed is losing the people who are passionate about this, and companies holding on to the people who have the very knowledge that these people coming in are passionate about, that want to pull out of them. Ted wasn't. It took, when any job that I would take, it'd take me about 2 or 3 weeks, a couple dirty jokes that could get me in trouble with HR before somebody would really commit to me being a part of what they do, which is fine. I'm okay with being the green person. Look, I will work my ass off until you trust me next to you. And even then, it's like, you have to ask the questions. I exchanged millwright knowledge from him because it was so important for what we were doing, and I taught him how to TIG weld. So during lunch, I actually have a video of me getting to teach him something that I knew that he didn't.
And this is why, quick sidebar, your respective industries were in such stark contrast to the lockdown mentality. You can't lock down the kind of things that you do. It just made me think of it when you talk about the accidental, serendipitous transfer of knowledge during an unplanned lunch.
Yeah.
That can't happen in a world where there's no lunch.
Right.
That can't happen in a world where, let's keep the old guys over here and the young ones over here and everybody get in your silo. Everything needs to be smashed together, right? I mean, how did you learn to drive? How did you learn most of what you know?
From an older driver, I mean, basically a guy, Tim Wilkerson was one of the first guys I ever drove for, and I thought I was doing a great job, and he came back and he was like, "Don't ever drive like that again." You know what I mean? Like, he's like, "You're gonna wreck this thing." I was like, "I'm doing great, man. I got it to the other end. I don't know. I wasn't on fire."
He left out the part of the story.
I was doing great.
Up his mask and you couldn't see
I was breathing
nothing.
so hard I couldn't see anything. But
that's called the Matt Hagan bar. I wasn't on fire.
Yeah, I wasn't on fire.
Wasn't on fire. I think we all won that one.
Yeah. So it's like they got 4 fire suits in my locker. I ain't used but one this weekend. We're doing good. So, but no, I mean, honestly, yeah, it's just, having to get in there and having to ask the questions and feeling like, hey, this is a stupid question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, because I'd much rather learn from someone that's already been through it than me be on fire and go through it myself, So
it's nice when your environment doesn't permit boredom, right? And if you've been in nuclear power plants, you've been in all kinds of sporty situations. Obviously, you're approaching the speed of sound. Right? That's
we'd like to think that. Yeah.
You can't nod off when you can see the concussive sound waves in the air, right? So I think you guys have an advantage in that way, right? And you always know how you're doing. In the business of welding.
Oh, it's a meritocracy.
Yeah. Right. It is a total meritocracy.
And I love that.
And all you have to do is look around and you can grade yourself. You don't need somebody to come in.
I mean, and look, genitalia does not determine the outcome of my weld.
I'd prefer not to use the words welding and genitalia.
Me neither.
Doesn't sound safe at all.
Yeah.
No. Meld, fine. Weld, yeah.
Oh, man. But it is true. Like that is the beauty of a lot of things in life. It's like if it really boils down to it, it's a meritocracy. You either can or you cannot. You either do or you don't. And it was one of the things that me growing up, my dad raised me with my 2 younger brothers, and the idea that I would go into something and that would be what someone questioned my skills for. Kudos to my dad, because he created a world for me where that's not even a possibility. Like it's not like. That's surely isn't what they would judge me, is the way that I look whenever I walk through the door, unless they were going to tell me I looked nice for the day, because that was just
not allowed to do that anymore.
Right. But but that's exactly it. And, and even there was a guy who did mufflers. He had a muffler shop, Tommy Glenn. And even he had a conversation when he found out this is what I wanted to do for a living. And he said, don't let this industry change you. You don't have to have a chip on your shoulder. Look, you don't have to go in there and be a man. You don't have to don't change who you are. Just do what you do.
You're not a weld-her.
I'm not a weld-her.
Let's be good at it, right?
I mean, I'm just like, that's exhausting. Like dude, I clock in with everyone else. I clock in. I want to earn my money the same way everyone else does. And look, we've already chosen a hard profession. Why are we infighting? Why are we creating this? Even men against men. Well, you're not a pipe welder, so you're not a real welder. Well, you weld parts at a table, so you're tabletop parts. Well, isn't that the goal? Like, it's just like, how about let's praise people for doing it,
for working nowadays.
Like, let's praise people for going out there and showing up and putting in. Well, and I also call it the misery Olympics. Like, I feel like in trades, there's something that's the misery Olympics, and it's like, oh, I'm exhausted. Well, I got 3 hours of sleep. Well, I got an hour and a half of sleep last night. Well, I worked 27 hours in 2 days. It's like, we have got to stop with it. It's like, dude, if you want to be miserable and your identity is what you do for a living,
you win. Gold medal.
Hooray, you're exhausted. But that's part of it. And I felt such a victim to that. When I first started in nuclear, there is not a day I wouldn't work. I think that the first vacation I went on where it was more than 3 days in a row was when I was 27. Okay, I'd never been on vacation. I'd never seen the beach because I was so enthralled in that misery Olympics of who can work the most hours and who can travel the most and where can I go and where can I be. And it's like, what do you got to show for it? A nice truck. I had a great truck. I had beautiful tools. I had everything that you could think of. But it was like there's a balance that has to be struck. And I think that, the older guys, telling you you're not worth anything because you didn't work 150 hours in 1 week. And the new guys that want to work 20 hours a week, it's like we got to find some sort of happy medium here where it's like the job still gets done.
Well, look, you're talking about balance.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons I wanted you both back. Not because most of the people listening to this have an inherent connection to going 330 miles an hour. They don't know. And most of them have never been in a nuclear reactor before. But they all chew and they all swallow. Right. And I want to circle back to nuclear, too, by the way, because there's an energy beat.
I believe it's pronounced nuclear.
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 How long have we been talking, by the way, Chuck? I'm gonna do better today.
Oh, I appreciate that, man. I have to do a little math, but
one job, dude.
About 40 minutes.
Okay, great. So we got about 20 minutes or so. Pivoting to the other steak. All right. Right. The one thing everybody listening to this can relate to is they share my addiction to chewing and swallowing things. You have a farm on top of this, a ranch.
Correct, yeah.
True Harvest. We talked about it last time. You sent me a bag of meat, dude. I mean, it's what was it called? The Cattleman's Cut or something?
Yeah, I believe so. We have a couple different packages on the website with Hagan Cattle Company, but
I'm just digging in. I had the top sirloin. It was the leanest top sirloin I've had. I was surprised. I want to ask you about it. I had the filet. It was one of the best fillets I've ever had. So I can't wait to get into all of it. But how's it going? And what's it like to be up to your neck in two different kinds of steaks?
Right? Yeah. Obviously there's always stakes at line, as far as, building a company and growing a company. And then obviously the stakes that we have at risk on winning championships and not being on fire. But they do, relate to each other for me because it allows me to turn this adrenaline driven, wild, 330 miles an hour off and get back to the farm and
7-mile-an-hour tractor.
Yeah, just let me decompress. But I love that about that, But sure. the steak side of things, the cattle company, is doing great. Obviously, I'm trading a lot of cattle. We're buying and selling a lot of cattle. There's obviously the economy is really tough right now, and I'm kind of acting like some bank for some of these farmers without charging interest and different things like that, and making money like that. Just kind of sticking my neck out for some of these other farmers and stuff like that as well, And so, the industry is we're at the lowest point that we've ever been since the 60s as far as the cattle herd in America. It's sad to see these small farms going away. 140,000 farms are gone in the last 5 years, in our country.
140,000.
140,000.
What kind of farms exactly?
Small farms, anything that's 50 cows or less, you know what I mean? They're gone. They can't do it. The overhead's too much, fertilizer too much, feed too much, fencing, just everything, taxation, the government's involved too much, just everything, and it's just, it's tough, and you see that we're importing more and more and more beef.
That's what I want to understand better, because this is something I guarantee most Americans just don't have a clue about.
Yeah.
When is USDA not USDA?
Well, so I guess the whole thing that they're trying to make it look like U.S. beef is they're importing this beef. They kill the cattle here, then they package it and put a USDA sticker on it and basically say it's a product of the U.S. and then can sell beef from Australia, beef from Brazil, Switzerland, and it's not our beef. We're not eating U.S. beef. We're importing because our cattle herd is so low right now.
Don't know what antibiotics they've been pumped with.
Yeah, and it's just, cattle change hands 5 or 6 times before they ever hit your table in the grocery store. With us, it's we farm raised, no antibiotics, no steroids, and it's a process. We're actually looking into opening up I guess a bad name for it's kill facility or a slaughterhouse. I don't know how you make it sound good.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah,
it is
right.
what it is. Like,
but
it's the reality of it.
We want to do start to finish, man. I mean, it's going to be millions of dollars for us to do it, and there's some grant money out there to help with it. But I want to be a turnkey operation to where I can say, hey, this is the beef. You can go out here and pick your beef out that you want, and you'll see it start to finish all the way to your freezer, but I still want to have that still small farm feel, because I don't want to be, this, massive company. I want to still have that. Hey, look, you have what you're getting, what you eat, and you're proud to put that on the table and eat it with your family at night, and that it's something good for you,
You can taste the difference.
For us, we're still a very, very small company. I mean, I got a couple of employees back home that help on the farm and help with packaging and the whole meat side of things, and same with the CBD. I mean, we're still a very small company, but you want to make money and to grow and to help support other people and jobs and stuff, but you also don't want it to get too big either.
It's like, how do you tell somebody that you don't have aspirations to be a millionaire? Like, why is that something that people don't, even people who ask me, like, well, why don't you start your own company? It's like you're allowed to not want to be a millionaire. Like, you're allowed to just want to have comfort in life. And I think that that's something that they're really doing a good job of trying to accomplish, where it's not like just chasing the cheapest way to make the biggest dollar.
And you have so much of that nowadays. We don't have this whole slime and meat and everything else. I mean, we're just not doing any of that stuff to make it cheaper, to push it forward. And so I think that for us, it's just really, I can be proud when I send something out to somebody and say, hey, look, this is homegrown. This is what you got, and it's not changed hands 5 or 6 times. And I got 3 freezers full at home that I'm eating the same stuff you're eating. You know what I mean? And it's just,
well, look, it's great. It's terrific. But I think it's a big world. It's a hungry planet. I would just like to see everything on the table. And I would like to see some real honesty in the marketing and advertising of it. And, I remember looking at the tongue in a pair of old boots that I had, not the Wolverines I'm wearing now, which I love, but a pair of old boots that said, assembled in the USA from parts imported from Malaysia and Tibet or something, right? And it's like so the whole idea that they had to dedicate that much language to a tag where they could create an impression that there was some level of domesticity.
That you're still buying American.
Exactly.
Right.
It's like that to me is
scam,
tragic.
Man.
Well, we've already lost the battle.
Right.
Of course it's not made. Like, if we're, by the way, how do they get here? Do they put them on container ships, the cattle from Brazil, from...
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're shipping a lot of cattle over, on by boat, different things like that. So it's just kind of...
You think they're feeding them on the boat? You think that they're keeping them,
And what are they feeding them on the boat?
Right.
Exactly.
And so they get here, and then that's when the USDA says, okay, if you slaughter it here and package it here, it gets the stamp, and it's U.S. beef.
In the United States, have cornered ourselves so
in the
far. We have pigeonholed ourselves so far in the opposite direction. We don't even have the equipment to do things here in States. It's like a perfect company that I really look up to is Origin. They do everything, and one of their facilities is in North Carolina. North Carolina, where I'm from, it used to be textile mills.
Mm-hmm.
We let go of all of that.
American Giants down there too.
Yep.
Exactly. And I mean, all of that stuff, and people don't want to pay the cost of what it means to have something American made. Well, you forget that, the $7 shirt that you get off of some website could be made in America, but because you don't want to pay $50 for something, all of a sudden this consumerism is just so upside down. Like we don't value the things that requires things to actually be American made. But then it's like those very same people will pass judgment when you want to represent a company, and they might have a caster that's built in China, but everything else was made in the United States. And it's just, that's something I can kind of get on a soapbox with sometimes, because it's like, well, we also sell our steel to China to buy back our steel from China pressed into a different product. Why can't we do that here? I mean, it's like you simplify things, and it's like, okay, well, import tax, export tax, all of those things that, you cry about immigration and all of this, but you're not dumping the resources to where they need to be to help your backyard. And it's like, well, could we feed everybody in the United States? Well, we could if we stop sending out aid to every other country that doesn't support the United States. What about making gardens in places so that you do have food available? What about volunteer systems that, there's so many people out here who will get their hands dirty and volunteer to help. So why does that justify somebody to have a government position that's $300,000 that doesn't incentivize you to actually fix the problem?
Careful there, Chloe. Your slip
okay.
showing.
Oh, sorry, I'm going to start sweating in a second.
No, look, I get it. I mean, it's kind of what I meant, Matt, when I said I just want everything on the table. Yeah. Bayard Winthrop from American Giant has been on this podcast, and I know Pete Robert up at Origin and Jocko. And you're right. They're doing what they. I mean, to make a pair of jeans in this country is incredibly difficult, and part of their bitch is, look, we treat our workers well, and we pay them fairly, and we have factories that actually comply with every OSHA standard and every EPA standard, and so we play ball. We're doing it right. They're not. Over there, they're not beholden to any of those things that drive the cost up. So why then are we competing in such a playing field that's so profoundly uneven? And that's a really important conversation to have with textiles. Everything from textiles to toothpicks.
Everything.
But it goes next level with you.
Yeah.
The stakes go up with steak.
Yeah.
Because that's
we're not trying to be the cheapest either. I mean, you're not going to find us and you go on there and you say, hey, well, we can compete with this and that. I mean, selling our burger, it's hard to get rid of all of our burger because, a lot of the cattle that we process, everybody wants the steaks. There's no problem selling steaks, but you got to find a place for your burger to go. And then when I go to a Food City or a Kroger or a Food Line and try to offer our ground beef to them, they're going like, well, we got it down here so low and you guys can't compete. And so it creates this really challenging, market to be in. And it's because you're not going to be able to offer the lowest, but you have quality beef that where it's coming from. And, when that mom goes into a grocery store and she says, hey, I want to buy something that's a little better for my kids and I know what I'm getting, they pay that little extra. But you're also going to have that other side of it to where people are just looking at the bottom dollar. So it's like everything you said, from toothpicks to toothpaste to beef. You know
textiles.
What I mean?
Yeah. You can't. It's very hard to say one thing that everybody should hear.
Right.
Especially when you're behind a mic or looking at a camera, because I don't know who's looking back. And I'll never forget, man. I had a Dirty Jobs cleaning product for a while, and it was good. I mean, it was about the most effective cleaning product I'd seen. And I got it at
use
Walmart.
that on a funny car. You got some more stored away somewhere.
You know what? I do, but we don't make it anymore.
Right.
And it's complicated as to why, but the meeting I'll never forget was with I think it was the CEO at Dollar Store. And we were sitting down and, trying to explain the cost of the thing and why it costs a little bit more. And part of it was me, right? Because I'm attached to it and I'd like to make some money. And everybody had their agenda. And he said, look, let me just tell you my world. In my world, every single day, as we're talking right now, there's somebody in line waiting to check out from one of my stores, and they've got their basket full of stuff. And right now, as we speak, they're being told by one of my cashiers what the basket full of stuff costs, and they don't have enough money. So they're going through a calculus right now to decide what to put back in order to leave with the stuff they absolutely positively need. He said that happens 1,000 times a day all over the country and all of our stores. Those are the people who shop here. They're the people who have to decide what they're going to put back at the last minute. So when I look at your product, I have to decide, are they going to grab that and put it back because it feels indulgent, because it's got Micro's face on it? Or are they going to put back the eggs? Bye-bye, Micro. Right. Easy.
So much for the slip.
Easy.
So much for the slip.
Hey, look. Look, no, we're probably going to cut it into the open because, it's why you're one of our favorite former scholarship recipients. I like the way you think. I like your view of the world. That's not a secret. But our world's changing, Matt, right? It's changing right in front of us, and it's changing every day. This thing is airing whenever it airs, Chuck. But this morning in real time, I woke up to learn the Key Bridge that I grew up with, sailed under 100 times, drove over 1,000 times, is gone. And what's that going to do? There's probably a bunch of cows on a container ship right now.
Us, right?
Exactly. So everything is connected or disconnected by bridges that are there or suddenly aren't. And we're just trying to make sense of every single thing, from food to funny cars, man. And it's tough for people.
We're in a tough environment and a tough economy. You know what I mean? Where interest rate is extremely high, inflation is extremely high, and everybody's looking at everything under a microscope. So I mean, how do you, as a putting a product out there, make that person not put that product back or want to buy your stuff over top of something that's cheaper? And I'll just say, it comes down to values, and what we do with our children and what we do with these upcoming kids now that, you got to put some value in them and understand, like, hey, we're going to pay a little bit more, but this is why it's going to last longer.
Or
it's
even
just,
the motivation behind the creation of a product, like the motivation for him to create CBD oil.
CBD oil is because I lost my brother to opioids, right? So that gave me, it was a driving factor of why we can help people without something that's super addictive or addictive
Anything
at all.
That's pharmaceutical.
And it has no psychoactive side of it, but you get all the healing and healthy benefits from the plant. It's not the cure-all be-all, but if it helps you get through your day or it helps you sleep through the night, then it's a win, right? You check it off as, hey, I'm not addicted to an opioid. I got through my night. I'm sleeping better. I'm resting better. I have people with chemotherapy that use our stuff. People with restless leg syndrome, people with high blood sugar. They were like, oh my gosh, in 2 weeks, it's lowered I had no idea, but you find out through these emails, people
right.
starting to use it for different things. And it gives you that warm and fuzzy, and for me starting the cattle company, me and my dad were just sitting around and it was during the COVID deal. And I was like, my God, these grocery stores are empty. Like everybody's on panic mode. Nobody has anything to offer. And my old man was kind of like, well, you got a bunch of beef. Let's just chuck these things out of a tractor trailer in a Walmart somewhere. And I was like, it don't quite work like that. But I was like, it's a good idea. Right. So he's a great businessman. I mean, he's got 42 companies and 900 employees. So he understands business, But I was like, yeah, I think we probably have to put a USD stamp on this somewhere along the way, But that mindset of like, hey, this happened in our country and how do we fix this or how do we make this better?
Well, and the motivation too with even that, his employees get first option when new products come out. Like that's helping your community. That's helping the people in your neighborhood. That is something that I think that he has really learned from his father as somebody who is very
my dad has a
humble and
Growing the
gracious.
Future program. I go speak to a lot of schools and we help a lot of obviously schools and fire departments, police departments, all that kind of stuff.
But I think that's where people need to
big in
start.
the environment. We're big in the community, right? And so that's taught me coming up along the way, hey, like you got to figure out a way to make this good for everybody. You know what I mean? And my dad, if I've learned one thing from him with all the employees that he has and all the business stuff is treat your people well. And you do that, they'll treat you well. They'll take care of you. And I've watched it, time and time again, when things get tough. I watched, when we went through the, recession in 2008, my dad's guys, they locked themselves in a conference room and they're like, we're figuring this out. We're not shutting the doors. As long as you got enough cash to throw at this thing, we're going to keep doing it, and they did it and they came out ahead, but it's just your people that you invest in are the people that invest in you and you take care of them. And it goes a full circle. And I've watched it happen so many times just within my dad's companies and now within my company.
So bring it back to your team, like your pit crew. Like, I mean, without naming names, there's got to be some people there. And what I'm getting at is, if you look at a football game or a baseball game or a hockey game, at a glance, you can see the team. You see it all. Pitchers, catchers, left fielder. There he is, tight end, running back, free safety. You look at your funny car, it's you. Now, you get into the pit, yeah, there's some activity, but it's all just a blur of stuff, right? So your team members don't have, unless it's through Chloe's efforts, making sure that the people in the industry understand who's turning the wrench and who's doing this and who's doing that. But they labor in relative anonymity, right? And they're in the glow of your
for the love of the game, man.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So acknowledging them.
Yeah,
it's just a long way of me saying I really agree with what you're saying, but the challenge for you is a little different than it is for a coach on a
and
a
keeping
normal
them
team.
right. Like so, two things that I say all the time is trust is earned and respect is earned, and they have earned both of mine. Not that they need my respect, but it's something that is given freely with them because I trust those guys with my life. I know when that car goes up to the starting line, I'm going to go 300 miles an hour. That it's put together right, or they've gone over it. They've touched the parts and pieces,
things.
And I mean, there's so many wrecks I probably would have been in and explosions I would have been in if my guys didn't catch it before it went up to the starting line. And that's, how do you pay somebody for that? You know what I mean? Like, it's invaluable. You know what I mean? So it's just kind of,
that's not like a stock tip,
right?
Right? That's like somebody grabbing you before you step out into Wilshire and the big blue bus turns you
right.
into a
Say,
puddle.
hey man,
hey,
we got this.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So, and it's not something that they've done wrong. It's just parts and pieces break and things come apart and chassis break and it's just, they're on top of it, man. And so how do you like, man, you deserve way more money than you're getting paid.
There's been times where they've even leaned on me to fix something in a hurry. Well, there was one for your front tree. Yeah, there was a titanium. Oh, sorry. There was a.
It's that large black thing.
Sorry. So there, like, part of the frame underneath his body is titanium, and one of the rods actually had cracked, and it cracked to the point where it was now sheared. And I had to weld on it in a moment, but Thomas found that crack. Okay, and this is in a tree area where it's very, very difficult to see. And you're talking about a turnaround time where they came and told me how to fix it in 12 minutes before it's a final round. And this guy took his time enough to find that defect. And I mean, it's not something that's just blatantly obvious. You're talking about a hairline crack that if it fails and he has an accident, will go through the firewall and impale him. So, I mean, that's the kind
Stakes.
Yeah, exactly. Back to stakes. But that's exactly the kind of thing he's talking about. That even in the moment, even in, in a second where you're like, oh, well, that can wait. I don't have to do that. So this is more important.
The same thing as these trades and what you guys are doing with your foundation and school and investing in people. You know what I mean? Invest in those people and know that they're, going to do a good job for you and you're going to take care of them. I mean, I had guys come to me before that they were going to quit because, during COVID, we were still racing, but everybody was taking pay cuts and different things. And I knew we were just going to win the championship. I just knew we were, and we ended up during it. But my guys came during the countdown. They were like, I can't afford to pay my rent, man. And I'm just going like, I will give you my bonus if you just stay. And I did, and they did stay, and we won the championship, but that's how
and then we won another one.
Yeah, that's how important people are. You can't replace good people. And I feel like in today's world, we have so many leaders and so many business guys that just feel like people are replaceable. And it's just not the case. If you just invest in your people and you take the time to get to know them and understand what they're going through and maybe try to make their day a little bit better here and there, wherever you can.
A perfect example is Trey.
Yeah.
That runs his farm. And you're talking about a 20-something-year-old kid.
Yeah, he's like 23 and
well, you know what?
off of a dairy farm.
But that's exactly right. He grew up in a dairy farm. So
when I'm hiring and I see grew up on a dairy farm,
you're a hard worker.
Yeah.
Well, you're just hired.
He's a hard worker.
All the rest of the stuff, whatever.
But tell him about
whatever.
how Trey is completely transformed the way you buy and sell cattle.
You give him opportunity to grow and, you incentivize, and do different things.
Gets a percentage
and he just,
of all his sales.
Just takes the reins and runs with it, man. And it just, you love seeing a young kid do something like that when you give him opportunity, and it just, thank God that he does that because I'm not there all the time. I'm out here driving a race car and still trying to farm over the phone and stuff. And I guess I call myself a farmer, right? Yeah. So it's just
remote farming.
Remote farming. Yeah. But thank goodness for young kids like that do still have initiative and drive and they don't want to just sit there and work from home or do whatever. Or just, they're out here getting dirty every day. I mean, he was sending me pictures of he built a 50-mile fence yesterday, and it's just like, oh my gosh, how did you get that done? And he was like, we got to get it done. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. So it's unbelievable that there's still kids out there like that though,
But it's a blessing you have somebody like you though, that's like, absolutely, here you go. Here's like, this is somebody that you're going to foster and you're going to create an environment where he can thrive and do better.
Sure.
And it's not just going to be him because the internet will tell him, go start your own cattle farm. That's what the internet tells him.
Sure, it's easy.
Right. Like the internet says, well, why are you letting him make money when you can make all the money? And like that mode of thinking is going to be what is the downfall of what the next generation coming in is. Everyone is not built to be, you need employees. You need great employees. Because look, Mike Rowe is not Mike Rowe without the help of Chuck or everyone else that you've surrounded yourself with. Okay, maybe on all right, that's a stretch. Matt Hagan is not Matt Hagan.
No, look, I think the moral of the story is, that stakes vary,
right?
But the underlying things don't. It doesn't matter if you're running a funny car or a farm or something in between. You're right. There are no shortcuts, and one size fits all is a bunch of bull crap.
No.
And people matter. You're right. I've known this asshole for 43 years. 43 years. Okay, that guy in the poster behind you, standing next to me. That's that guy standing right there.
Really?
That's Taylor. All right.
There we go.
Taylor's here. That's the day we met.
Really?
How long ago? So in 2013.
10 years ago.
In 2013.
Well, 11 if I'm doing the math right.
Yeah, 11.
2011.
Oh,
let's not let
I can't math, all right? I can't math good.
It's not about the math. But I was doing a shoot with Caterpillar for the foundation, and I needed somebody to recreate this awful poster that was in my guidance counselor's office in 1978. And, Taylor was there. I'm like, hey, man, would you mind dressing up like a janitor and just taking a quick picture? He's like, nah.
Taylor's a cameraman.
He's a cameraman,
Yeah.
and he was working on a movie at the time. Like a lot of stuff. But I just needed like a warm body who was game, who looked like he could be prosperous one day.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Right?
Way to look like a janitor.
So the point is, he says yes, and that poster now is in tens of thousands of places all over the place.
Story.
But beyond that, it's like Mary, my partner, was with me that day, and she's like, that kid just says yes,
Yeah.
and then he figures it out. Well, Taylor edits, Taylor writes, Taylor directs, Taylor produces, Taylor can run the cameras, he can run the audio, and he can impersonate a model. And so, in much the same way I impersonate a host, and you actually do what you actually do. But
just on TV.
But I get it. Anybody who's listening has people in their life that are key. And the reason you were a guest on this podcast over a year ago is because somebody said my sweat pledge was bonkers. And I wanted to talk to somebody who had signed that thing.
I was living and breathing that sweat pledge when I signed that thing. So it was not something that was difficult for me to agree to.
But that thing has caused more drama in my life. But to your point, look, we're going to break.
Necessary.
We're going to break some eggs.
Yep.
Right? The thing, I don't know how many people listening know this, but the sweat pledge is now a curriculum, a work ethic curriculum. And I was telling you guys, we finally got that into a high school in Vegas, and it's tied to a $5 million endowment that's going to turn into 50 or 100 full ride scholarships.
That's great, man. That's
Can you
awesome.
include a copy of Atlas Shrugged with every scholarship given?
Now your slip is totally out. Now you went full Ayn Rand? Oh boy. Here we go.
Here we go.
No, look guys, it's a big world and one size doesn't fit all, but what you two are doing in your own way is important. I think people can learn from it. Maybe not everything, but certainly have a few laughs and maybe a peek into a world that they don't know anything about. Funny cars, it's a pretty short list, but so are farms.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I had my teammate out there stick his hand up a bull's ass. Maybe we can get you out there to do the same.
Sounds good, man.
Just have a weekend where you start with a bull and then end with bottom end. That way you're still in the same.
Wow.
Still in the same realm, but
The smell a little different. You got an oily smell
and the nitro.
There's a bull in Indiana who still calls me.
Oh, wow.
When you coming back,
That's
fancy man?
impressive. Did
With
you ever
the
get your watch
imposable
back?
thumbs.
Did you ever get your watch back?
No, I never did. Tell me where do people go to get your amazing steaks?
So basically, you can just go on to HaganCattleCo.com and pick out a package. We ship across the country. We try hard not to ship to California just because of it's so expensive.
Yeah.
But we do a lot of local pickup stuff like that. Same with CBD. CBD
located
is all
in Christiansburg, Virginia.
Yeah. CBD is all over the country. I mean, obviously, we're sending small amounts of tinctures and muscle creams and different things like that. But and like I said, not a cure all be all, but it's TrueHarvestFarms.com. We just
TrueHarvest.
Yeah, and just revamp the websites and stuff like that. But still want to have that small homely feel to everything, and just make sure that we're helping people, man.
Option.
Yeah. That's all it comes down to. Is actually we just want to feed people and help people, and if people can't appreciate that, then they don't need to buy our products anyway.
Well, and then if they're feeling that good, then they can go work really hard.
That's right. Get up early.
Chloe, why don't you give us both of your social handles?
So he is at Matt Hagan FC _ or underscore FC.
Matt Hagan _
FC.
One job, Chloe.
Yes,
Yeah.
I know.
One job.
I'm dyslexic.
Ahead of
Okay.
You ought to see her when she's giving directions. She's like,
all right,
turn
you
left,
bring it up.
and she points right.
And she points right.
Yeah, and I was like, well, which
Other
one
left.
is it?
Listen,
Yeah.
I'm a
Other
welder,
left.
okay? Anyways, Matt Hagan _ FC is your handles for Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And then mine is Arc Welding Angel is my Instagram handle. And that's the only place I really am.
Arc
No.
Welding,
Arc.
ARC.
Arc as in
You're
welding.
everywhere, Chloe
Arc
Hudson.
Welding Angel.
Well, it's a
You are
lot
everywhere.
because of you, man. You got it started.
Yeah,
So.
talk about
No,
boom.
you've actually, you don't know what good you've done.
I hope so.
No, you have. It's I can tell a story, and they're all anecdotal, but when people started hearing from you and, a few hundred others that went through this thing.
Well, I always hate to disappoint people with my real comments, but it is what it is.
I've noticed you care less and less. So
at this point, I'm just
impressive.
like, woo,
I like
freedom.
to think it was. I like to think it was the first story I wrote about you.
Yes,
There you go.
of course, 100%.
All
I
those
should have
years ago.
bookmarked that with freedom from tyranny.
All right, folks. That's Matt and Chloe. They're a kick. Check them out at the
Thank you,
aforementioned
brother.
handles, and we will see you all next week.
If you like what you heard, and even if you don't, won't you please, pretty please, subscribe. Well, I hate to beg and I hate to plead, but please, pretty freaking please.